We're going to go through a lot of information today, and ultimately and admittedly, we did not provide you with every single document that we were sent from the Attorney General's office on the slides. Had we done that, this presentation would have been several hundred pages long and taken several hours. In your binders, you will see, but not on the slides here, a condensed timeline that was prepared for you. If you want to pull that out and follow along while we're going through the actual documents itself, you're more than welcome to do that. So we'll start on the Cornack investigation at the Attorney General's office. What we found here and is on the slides is the actual start of the investigation in the Attorney General's office itself. A news article is attached to an email. In short, this news article alleges that Tracy Cornack had taken advantage of her ward, and it alleges that she was her guardian at the time, and there was a whistleblower at the facility by the name of Joe LeBlanc, who was the former administrator for Heather Hills, that the article alleges provided them all of this information, including even more from a former attorney at Heather Hills. The first email sent states, "Hi Dave, notwithstanding that we've not received a complaint, the AG wants to know if this billing issue is something we would investigate."
My assumption that that redaction right there should say that I am conflicted out of this case. That is what that should say. That email right there, unredacted, is what this committee needs. Because a conflict is immediately established. It's not an interpretation. And that email should say, I have a personal relationship with Ms. Cornack, and I need to be, my word, firewalled out. That's what it should say. I want to know what it says in it.
On the bottom right, Lori Bates, an investigator in the financial crimes section, a supervisory special agent, it says, who is paid for and works directly for the Michigan Department of Attorney General. The next day, on July 14th, the Attorney General's office opens an official criminal complaint for investigation of this file, the file regarding Tracy Cornack in the village of Heather Hills. That Heather Hills will cooperate with an investigation. Cornack stated Heather Hills provided her with her tax ID number for the use on their invoices. The Attorney General's office had former attorney Mark Kidder's letter in their possession that directly contradicts that statement there. From what we could tell, they never reached out to State Farm to confirm that allegation though. However, upon our review of the file, we never saw any correspondence between the Attorney General's office and Best Care Nursing to confirm this fact. The Attorney General's office then moves forward with the investigation by sending an email to Joe LeBlanc's old work email. In this email, they offer him directly, Joe LeBlanc himself, an opportunity to file a complaint with their office. Attorney General Dana Nessel receives the entirety of a file that is titled Cornack zip file.
And we still don't have a firewall established.
That's correct. At this point, we could not find an isolation wall being put in place in the file. We uncovered throughout our investigation that this was the entirety of the file that the investigative reporter had who broke the story. It is everything that Joe LeBlanc provided him to make these allegations publicly. Broke the story. He attached a sign-in log, a visitor sign-in log from the Heather Hills facility that was provided to him by the whistleblower. That there were discrepancies in that log between months that Cornack's daughter actually signed in and showed up for providing services versus months that Cornack submitted bills claiming that services were provided for. Lori Bates sends an email outlining and summarizing some of the case as a DIFS update. DIFS stands for the Financial Crimes Unit at the Attorney General's office, is our understanding. She states an exec from the facility was claiming that Cornack used the facility's tax ID number and FEIN to submit a claim to State Farm. She then states at the bottom of that email, so if DIFS wants our office to pursue something, it can be added to the pile of cases. Lori Bates then states, the plot thickens on the Cornack complaint. This is because they received an online complaint in the healthcare fraud department, an online complaint submitted by Joe LeBlanc, the person that the Attorney General's office noted in their file they weren't able to get in contact with. Joe LeBlanc alleged financial exploitation of at least $20,000 against Tracy Cornack's ward. This would be Rosaline Bird. We had no clear evidence to indicate that the Attorney General's office attempted to follow up and reach back out to Joe at a personal email, phone number, or address after finding out that he had since resigned. It was 3 days after his online complaint was submitted, the Attorney General's office closed the file. The Healthcare Fraud Division stated that our review of your complaint has revealed that there is insufficient evidence at this time to warrant further criminal investigation. We are therefore closing your file, and it's sent back to the Financial Crimes Division. The Financial Crimes Division that Lori Bates was the investigator of and had already, for all intents and purposes, conducted a full investigation. Before the file is officially forwarded to the Financial Crimes Division, an isolation wall is put in place. The language in that isolation wall is clear. It's unequivocal. It is to exclude Attorney General Dana Nessel from access to the file, refrain from discussing the matter in her presence, prevent Attorney General Dana Nessel from viewing any documents or materials the Financial Crimes Division may have, refuse to receive any information related to this matter from or provide any information related to this matter to Attorney General.
Once you saw the sufficient evidence here of fraud, did anyone submit a complaint to the local attorney general or sheriff's department or whoever to investigate it first step? Was that done?
And when it comes to isolation walls, it should be put in place and disclosed by the attorney who has a conflict immediately. As soon as they are aware that a conflict exists, it should be disclosed. That even mentioning Tracy Cornack's name as being investigated could trigger that wall under the ethical duties that we as attorneys are bound by. But there was several independent agencies that also investigated this, including the Kent County Sheriff's Department, who started an investigation the month after the Attorney General's office closed the file and ended up concluding that there were charges. Before they sent it to the Financial Crimes Division again, back to Lori Bates, who had already discussed adding it to a pile of cases. Dana Nessel states, Ms. Cornack has contacted me regarding this matter. Mr. Redacted's allegations are apparently holding up a potential judicial appointment for her in Kent County. She has requested the documents from our investigation. Will she need to FOIA them? I think wants to be able to assert that the claims made by Redacted were never substantiated by our investigation and the case is closed. And the file was closed, claiming that there was insufficient evidence and that, more importantly, their primary reason for it was that they claimed the alleged victim they determined to be the village of Heather Hills did not want to participate.
Are we under the assumption that this entire circumstance, that Heather Hills is the victim here? Is that what the Attorney General's office is presenting?
Yes, sir.
How would Heather Hills be the victim? Rosalind Byrd is the one who was defrauded.
I think that would be a better question left for the Attorney General's office, sir.
This legislator is asking the correct question. Why is the complainant and Mrs. Byrd being ignored by the Attorney General? And why is the Attorney General only representing the corporate entity?
In 2023, Assistant Attorney General Scott Teeter represented an Oakland County trust and ignored the complainant, Jeff White, and his deceased father, John Sterling White. Only one of the two co-trustees were charged for conducting a criminal enterprise. Teeter did selective prosecution by representing the corporate entity. On November 21st, 2024, the attorney co-trustee of the trust, Thomas Brennan Frazier, faced no consequences, and only David White was found guilty and sentenced to 4 to 20 years. Thank you, Representative DeBoyer and the House of Representatives Oversight Committee for looking into the corrupted misconduct that is harming our elderly and vulnerable loved ones.